So at the time of recording this audio, as it has been the entire season, the Vancouver Canucks are the number one team in the projected 2026 NHL Draft lottery odds. They have been number one, as we had mentioned, for most of the year. They have 42 points in 57 games played. That is 7 fewer points than the St. Louis Blues and 8 fewer points than the New York Rangers. Every other team has 10 or more points than Vancouver, with a lot of these teams having games in hand. So it goes without saying that the Vancouver Canucks are the worst team in the NHL, and thus will have the highest odds at drafting first overall. With that said, they only have a 25% chance of taking that number one lottery ball, which means that they have a 74.9% chance of not drafting first, either slipping down to second or slipping to third, which is the lowest they can draft at this stage, assuming they stay in the worst position in the league. With this in mind, let's head over to one of the names that has headlined the 2026 NHL Draft class, and no, we are not talking about Mr. Notorious Gavin McKenna. We are talking about Keaton Verhoeff out of the North Dakota Fighting Hawks, out of the NCAA. Now, Verhoeff has been a pretty notable name throughout this entire draft season. He is projected a consolidated third overall, but is ranked as highly as number one by various scouting outlets. We've made our videos about him in the past, but let's just refresh y'all's while we're here, and then get into why we're speaking about him today. Verhoeff is 17 years old, a 6'4", 212 right-handed defenseman. He's a big boy, and he's a young one, born in June of 2008. You could already say for the Vancouver Canucks, they have Filip Hronek, they have Tom Willander, they have Vittorio Mancini, they have guys that project to be right side guys for the long haul. So whether or not a Keaton Verhoeff's availability makes sense for the Vancouver Canucks, it's going to really depend on whether or not your philosophy is best player available, and if your idea of the best player available is Keaton Verhoeff. Verhoeff was a stud for the Victoria Royals last season, scoring 45 points in 63 games. This year, he has gotten himself 18 points in 27 North Dakota NCAA games, along with 4 points in 5 World Junior games. Not the best point production out there, but when you just look at the tools, the size, the intangibles, what makes Verhoeff click, you are looking at a very, very solid number one potential defenseman. Maybe not necessarily a guy who will get 80 to 90 points a year like a Quinn Hughes or a Makar, but a guy who will win a Norris one day because of everything else around his game, not just strictly the points. Think Matthew Schaefer out of the OHL, who had made his way onto the Islanders, not necessarily the top offensive dynamo like an Adam Fox or a Makar, but definitely a top 2 caliber defenseman at 18. Keaton Verhoeff may as well follow in a similar type of mold, but we'll wait and see. He also is right-handed, and he's also a bit bigger. The reason we're talking about Verhoeff today is because he had himself a really nice interview 2 days ago on Thursday with Donnie and Dolly on Czech TV. There were a number of quotes and a number of clips posted by the Donnie and Dolly social media which feature Keaton Verhoeff doing this interview from what looks like a hotel room or something. He goes out there and talks about the Victoria Royals. They were such an amazing organization with so many great people. Rick Dollywell says here on Twitter that Verhoeff is a very impressive young man. Great interview with a top pick in the NHL Draft this summer. The conversation gets even more interesting when you read this post made by Edward Jackson on Canucks Daily. Top 2026 NHL Draft selection confirms he wants to be taken by Vancouver. Okay, the clickbait title is definitely there, but let's read what exactly the quote is. In a little over 4 months, the Canucks are going to select higher than they have in the last 2 decades. As the NHL went on pause earlier this month for the winter break, the Vancouver Canucks have the highest odds to land the first overall pick. During an appearance on Donnie and Dolly, University of North Dakota defenseman Keaton Verhoeff says he would be thrilled to be selected by the Vancouver Canucks in June. The Canucks have liked the Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta native for a little while now, and Patrick Allvin and members of the team's front office reportedly met with Verhoeff last month to get to know him a little better, both as a player and as a person. Linked below is a clip of Verhoeff talking about the potential of playing with Vancouver, where he says this: "It was awesome. Meeting with them was really cool. Like I said, it's a unique experience to go through this draft process, and talking with Canadian teams and such a great organization like Vancouver was quite an honor. If it ends up happening and that's the spot I go, I'd be really honored to play there and kind of have that opportunity to be part of the next generation of Canucks that can really put together a solid team and be a competitive team year in, year out to push for the championship and that goal that everybody obviously wants and what the Canucks organization wants and what I think every organization in the NHL too. Just to be able to have that chance to win the Stanley Cup." Now, no disrespect to Keaton Verhoeff, but run-on sentences aside, man, goodness gracious. Thing is, though, he says all the right things here. Like, this guy isn't even a Canuck right now. Who knows if he'll ever be a Canuck, but he is saying absolutely the right things that Canucks fans and the Canucks management themselves would love to hear out of a potential draftee. If it's not possible, okay, maybe there's no reason to talk about it, but it is very well possible that Verhoeff gets targeted and drafted by the Vancouver Canucks, and he's going out there and saying, yeah, I'd be very honored to play there. I would love to be a part of this next generation of Canucks. We want to be able to be a competitive team, push for a championship year in, year out. We want to do that, and I'd love to be a part of that with this city. It's totally the opposite sentiment like we had seen out of Quinn Hughes when he was draft eligible. It seemed like he was kind of disappointed when he got drafted initially, although maybe that's just me sour graping. The article then says that as the season has gone on, Verhoeff has taken some big strides at both ends of the ice as well as the 2026 World Juniors, seeing his role increase with every game, which is quite impressive for somebody who is only 17. In 26 games, he has gotten himself 18 points, 25 penalty minutes, and is a +7. One thing that could hold the Canucks back from selecting Verhoeff in June's draft is where he is projected to go, and where Allvin is expected to pick. With Vancouver likely going to end up in the 1-2-3 range, while the young blue liner is currently ranked second by NHL Central Scouting and might be taken anywhere from 4 to 7. Now, it's very well possible that Verhoeff goes number 2, or number 3 even. It's Stenberg, McKenna, and Verhoeff at this point, all at the top of the draft, and Vancouver can't really do no wrong here. You can say that with Gavin McKenna's explosion of offense following the World Juniors and following the incident, maybe he is starting to bolster up that stock a little bit more. But for Keaton Verhoeff, it's things like this that really make him seen as a valuable player that I think a lot of Canucks fans might not have actually had on their radar to this extent until now. There were folks in the Canucks subreddit going out there and asking, hey, if we draft him, is he ready? Top comment here says, well, no, what's the rush? Do you want to have a situation where you rush a guy into the National Hockey League and maybe overplay him in a position that he's not too comfortable with? This reply over here says, hey, last thing we want is a Kevin Korchinski on our hands. Hopefully the coaching staff and management will look objectively at what he needs developmentally and send him to where he needs to go so he can get it. Kevin Korchinski was also a top pick out of Chicago, made the NHL right away, and kind of suffered as a result. He just wasn't ready, but the Blackhawks forced him to. For Keaton Verhoeff, if the Vancouver Canucks let him chill in the NCAA one more time, they could be looking at pretty much the next generation of top-tier defenders in Vancouver, with Zeev Buium and Verhoeff as a really nice 1-2, and Filip Hronek as a solid top 4, potentially as the captain of the team as well. So with all that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Keaton Verhoeff speaking about becoming a Canuck and expressing his gratitude, his openness, his willingness to play for Vancouver? And what are your thoughts on his projection as a whole? Has he climbed up the ranks since the end of the World Juniors? And where do you have him ranked? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4? Maybe you have Tynan Lawrence a little bit ahead of him? Maybe somebody else like a Caleb Malhotra? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.